Good morning, everybody. My name is Colette Matriga from Colette's Family Kitchen. Welcome to day 3 of sourdough. So for me, the temperature around the house is quite cool. And remember, we are looking for that warm hot spot to really maximize the growth of our starter, to give it that boost that it needs. So I know that mine is going to be a little bit slower because the temperature just absolutely dropped last night, but that's okay. As I said, it just means it's going to take a bit longer for it to develop. So let's have a little look at my starter. So the first thing, because before I went to bed last night, you know, I always just check my starter, just have a quick little look, and I felt it was really quite cold. So I gave it a little snuggly tea towel, wrapped a tea towel. So just like yourself, think of it as a child. If it's cold, you're going to wrap it up in something. So think about wrapping it up and give it that extra little boost. So here we go. Let's just take that lid off and have a look at my day 3 starter. So the first thing, I've had a little bit of movement, not a huge amount, and that's absolutely fine. So just a little bit. And what happens is it actually grows, and of course we're not looking at it all the time, but it can't yet hold that structure, so it then falls quite quickly. And some of you, especially if you're in a warmer climate, you might find that it has a big spurt of growth, but it will fall back down quickly. It needs to develop those gases and acids in order to actually get that structure held. So looking inside, I'm just going to pop this down so you can see. Okay, actually I'm not sure if I should. Sorry guys, that was not a good idea. Okay, let's bring this back up. All right, so you can probably see quite happily in there. So I've got a few big bubbles on the top of my starter, you can see there, a few big bubbles. And then if you look around the side, there are some really kind of nice bubbles forming. All right, so now what we want to do is, I'm just going to give this a quick stir so you can see kind of what is happening in the jar. You'll see that underneath, it's a bit hard, but there are more bubbles kind of underneath, and it is lovely and kind of sticky, not dollopy. So that's kind of what we are looking for. And I can see as I'm stirring, there are more little bubbles. Not many, but there are more bubbles throughout. Okay, so we're into our feeding zone. And what we want to do is to basically feed this. And this is what we're going to be doing over the next 5, 6, 7 days. It's exactly the same process every morning. But first up, always observe, is there activity in your starter? Have a smell. And I'm definitely picking up the change in smell. It's still quite slight in mine. It's still very early days. All right, so looking at what it's shaping like, etc. So the first thing I need to do, which I haven't, I'm going to grab a clean jar. All right. Now you don't need to use a clean jar. You can use a dirty jar, but after a week or so, you're going to have to clean it because it gets really sticky and messy with all of this. So Susie, yours grew overnight. That's fantastic to hear. You've obviously got that sweet spot, which is wonderful. So I'm going to pop on my scales, and basically what we're working to is the same amount of flour to water to starter. So the 3 components, flour, water, starter, and what we're actually using is 60 grams of each, 60 grams of each. So let's pop into here our starter. So I'm just simply going to weigh in about 60 grams. And you will have discard. So 61 grams, that's absolutely fine. So you can see I've got, you know, probably about 40 grams left in here. Now this is known as discard. At this stage I would pop it on your compost or something like that. It's not really at the state where you want to make pancakes or crackers, and there's really not enough of it. So at this stage, I would just throw it out until we get all the benefits of those, of the true starter actually happening. So 60 grams have gone in. Now to that, I'm going to add in 60 grams of flour, and it doesn't matter what order you do this in. So this is my unbleached white flour. And so that's 30 grams. Sorry guys, so 60 grams of my starter, 30 grams of the white flour, and 30 grams of the rye, giving me in total 60 grams of flour. So then, just to recap, 60 grams of starter, in total 60 grams of flour, and then I am going to weigh in 60 grams of warm, tepid water. So about 27 degrees is perfect, doesn't matter if it's a little bit over. I'm making sure that our water is filtered and has no chlorine, because chlorine will stop this whole process. So about 60 grams. Excellent. A little bit more. Perfect. Right, so that's everything there, and all I need to do now is to mix this together. And basically what we're doing is we're feeding it. We're giving it more nutrients to create more gases and acids. And as you're doing this, I can see lots of little bubbles coming up, and which is good, and that's from the activity that it's developed so far. So if you feel you need to add a little bit more water, you can do that, it's not a problem. But I'll show you the consistency, and what I'm doing is I'm making sure there's no dry bits left. So there we go, that's the starter. The consistency is, you can see it is not as dollopy as before, but that's kind of what my consistency is. And again, what we want to do, keep a tidy jar, just making sure we use our spatula to scrape this down. Okay, and we will get our band. Looks good. Get our elastic band and pop that elastic band around so we can monitor if there is any growth. All right, now making sure we just align that properly. Now if there's no bubbles, there's no activity, what you want to do, so if you can see here, see these little bubbles? So I know that my starter, it's slow and sluggish, but I know that there is activity happening. So that's a good sign. But if your starter, there's nothing, don't worry, it's okay. But you need to think about the place that you're putting it. You might need to try and find somewhere else. You know, you could pop it overnight in your modem box, because it could be quite not in the box, but in the cupboard where your modem is. You could actually pop it in a little bath of water. In really cold climates, I know that they fill an esky with kind of tepid water and actually fill water up to about here and sit it in, but we shouldn't need to do that here in Australia. But I don't want you to panic yet, just give it time. Remember, the 3 basic rules for sourdough are observation, consistency, same time feeding every day, and the third one is patience, having patience. Yours might take 7 whole days before you get that first bubble, and it'd be so exciting. But again, yours might have bubbles already. And again, with the top, I'm just sitting it on top, and I'm now going to position that. And I'm going to put mine today a little bit back from a windowsill that I've found, which is not direct sun, but it's nice and warm. So that's where mine's going to go today. And tonight, I'm going to definitely put a tea towel blanket around it and see what happens tomorrow. So for the next, as I said, the next probably 7 days, this is the process that we'll be following. Now, your starter tomorrow or the next day might double, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for this to be double. And then once it's double, it's telling us that you've got good activity. But at that stage, although you could actually go ahead and bake a loaf of bread, we don't want to. We want to really develop that structure and we want to develop that taste that we're after. So we continue throughout the process, so just bear with us. Now, although the process is the same, I will come back to you every day at 8 o'clock and I'll show you my starter so you've got a comparison, and every day I will have my little cheat sheet up on my Facebook page, and then on my blog, if you want them all together, I put a new heading on the menu bar of my blog and it's called sourdough, and you can keep track of exactly what's happening there. So Helen, that was a good question. Do you have to wait for bubbles to start the feed? Look, I would recommend, so if you haven't got bubbles yet, if you haven't got like any tiny little pin bar, and it could be just 3 of them, you might want to not feed it today. You might want to just set it aside and let it continue until tomorrow and then feed it tomorrow. So there's a whole number of different schools of thought out there. If it was me, I'd probably leave it. Yep. All right. Okay, so any other questions before I head off? I'll go back and look at the chat. So if you do have questions, I would really prefer you to put them in the feed of the sourdough, which I will look at a couple of times a day, rather than message me, because by putting it in the feed, everyone else that's joining us, and I think there's about 1,000 people that are doing this at the moment, probably 1,000 plus, everyone can learn from your question. So that's the idea behind that. And I'd love to see photographs and pictures. And when you put a photograph, just tell me what day you're actually photographing, because you might be starting day 1 now. So depending on where you are with that journey. So that's it. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and enjoy your sourdough process. And by the way, as we progress, you don't need to spend this much time. You can do what I do normally with my main sourdough. I take it out once a week and feed it. That's the routine that I have. And I do my sourdough baking on the weekend generally. So, yeah, so you can use any yogurt you want to, because it's the cultures we're after, not necessarily what the taste is. So, I mean, ideally a good Greek yogurt would be fantastic, but anyone is fine. It's those cultures. All right, everybody, have a beautiful day, and I look forward to seeing your questions and having a look at your sourdoughs and see how you're going. Thank you so much, everyone. My name is Colette Matriga from Colette's Thermy Kitchen. Enjoy. Bye for now.